लो मदीने की तजल्ली से लगाए हुए हैं, लो मदीने की तजल्ली से लगाए हुए हैं, लो मदीने की लो मदीने की तजल्ली से लगाए हुए हैं।
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Inshallah ta'ala, today then our program will be on the history of al-Masjid al-Nabawi and the virtues of visiting it. Certainly it is a fascinating and beautiful topic area which myself I have thoroughly enjoyed researching, and inshallah ta'ala today you will certainly enjoy listening to as well. And why not? Because for us the city of Madina Sharif is the essence of our iman. This is where our Sarkar, our Master Sayyiduna Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam resides. Anyone who has had the honor and sharf to visit this beautiful city will tell you about the joy, the elation, the happiness that one feels once they enter the city of our Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. That amount of serenity, peace, sukoon and aram that a person gets from al-Madina al-Munawwara. And I think one of the hardest things, and I'm sure those people who have been can relate to this, the hardest thing sometimes a man or a woman has to do is to leave the city of Madina Sharif. It is a heartbreaking occasion when a person finally has to leave the city of our Messenger alayhi salatu wassalam. Today inshallah ta'ala, what I'm going to do is a vast topic area, and there is so much to be said on this, but in short I'm going to try to split this presentation into three parts. The first part, we will talk about the history of the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam's mosque. So that will start from the time of our Messenger and go through the time of the Khulafai Rashideen, the Middle Ages, and we will mention something about the modern changes that have taken place as well. So you get an idea of the development of the center of Islam, of the city of our Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. In the second part, a lot has changed over the last few centuries, but alhamdulillah there's still some beautiful and powerful remaining old relics and old tabarrukats going back to a very long time ago, and things which are important for our belief and important for our aqidah as well. So I will spend about 10-15 minutes explaining that may Allah give you an opportunity soon to visit the city of Madina Sharif, that if you do go again, what to look out for, and what is those places of importance and those places of interest. And then finally, the final part of the presentation will be about the virtues of the Prophet's mosque, the beauty and perfection of the city of Madina Munawwara, and in particular the virtues of going to Madina Sharif with the intention of visiting the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. At the end, like always in our study circles, we will have a question and answer session, and as always please do stay behind after the dua for some light refreshments as well. I hope that the actual presentation will take about 50 to 60 minutes. One thing I will say before we begin is that the presentation is largely visual. So please, if I could humbly request, especially the brothers at the back, to move forward, and those on the side to come to a place where you can actually see the screen as well, because a lot of the information will be based on visual, please. Jazakallah. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير فالله خير حافظا وهو أرحم الراحمين عليه توكلت وإليه أنيب. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. The history of the Prophet's mosque. When the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam migrated to al-Madina Sharif, then one of the first things that he did was to build his mosque. This place would not just be the place of prostration, the place of sajda, which obviously is the literal meaning of masjid, but it would become the center, the pivot of the whole community as well. This beautiful utopia, this Jannat al-Ard, this paradise on earth, the whole center of it would be the mosque of our Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. in the year that our Prophet ﷺ migrated to Madina Sharif, construction began in the month of Rabiul Awwal, and it took about 8 months to complete. Our Prophet ﷺ himself physically took part in the construction of his own mosque. The land itself, and you perhaps know the story that the Prophet ﷺ, that he was on his she-camel, and whereas many Muslims wanted the Prophet ﷺ to reside for the mosque to be on their land, what the Messenger ﷺ decided that he would embark upon his she-camel, and wherever the she-camel rested, that would be the place that they would build the mosque. On that basis, the she-camel rested in the place that we now know as the Prophet's mosque, and the Prophet ﷺ inquired as to who actually owned this land. After this investigation, he understood that it belonged to 2 orphan boys by the name of Sahal and Suhail radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma. The Prophet ﷺ approached them and said that I would like to purchase this land for you so that we can build a mosque on it. Subhanallah, these 2 orphan boys, though they perhaps were needy as well, they said to the Prophet, Ya Rasulullah, we give this land free to you. We are not going to take any price from you whatsoever. Our Messenger ﷺ insisted that you must take some price, or you must take some kind of value for it. And in the end, it was Sayyiduna Abu Bakr Siddiq radiyallahu ta'ala anhu who paid a small price for that land. Reports say that either it was 10 miskal, which is a unit of currency meaning gold, or it was 10 dinars. Subhanallah, that this is the true meaning of Sadaqah Jariyah. That until the day of judgment, these 2 orphan boys, Sahal and Suhail, whoever prays Salah in the Masjid al-Haram, they will get the reward for it. And certainly Sayyiduna Abu Bakr Siddiq, until the day of judgment, they will get the reward of whoever performs Salah in al-Masjid al-Haram, in Masjid al-Nabawi. So this is a lesson for us all as well, that leave something behind by which people can benefit. Something which others will benefit long after you have left this world. At that time, and then this is something that you have to pay close attention to, is that this is actually the direction of Qibla, going that way. Remember, when the Prophet ﷺ first came, Salah was actually in the opposite direction, towards Jerusalem. So the mosque was facing that way. This is the Qibla, and that was facing Jerusalem. Here was the Prophet ﷺ's Hujra Mubarakah, his home, and Ashab al-Suffah, the place where the poor Muslims, the likes of Sayyiduna Abu Hurairah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, where they resided. So this is the first form, and this is the first early impression of the mosque of Sayyiduna Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. By the way, these first 7, 8, 9 slides, these pictures here, they have been taken from an exhibition which is next to al-Masjid al-Nabawi right now. So if you have the chance in the next few months to visit the city of our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, there is a massive exhibition hall on the side of Bab-e Umrah. So go there, and it's a beautiful exhibition, and there's a lot about Islam, about the Quran, and there's a beautiful diagrams of the development of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Plus there's a lot of old relics there as well. So certainly it is worth your time if you do have the opportunity to visit there. So this is the first form of the masjid. It's going in the opposite direction. That's the first thing to perhaps note. Then in the 7th year of Hijrah, after the Battle of Khaybar, this was the first time in the time of our Prophet ﷺ that the mosque was extended. Remember that the Qibla direction towards Jerusalem lasted for about 18 months. And then thereafter it changed completely, and now it was facing towards the right way, you could say, this way. The Prophet's Hujra remained exactly where it was, but now, remember, the Ashab al-Suffah was here before. That got transferred to the back side, where it is still today as well. So this is where it is. In terms of the size as well, it was extended, and now it was roughly 50 meters by 50 meters. And this part here, the ceiling, was about 3.5 meters tall. In terms of words, our Prophet ﷺ always expressed his closeness towards the poor people, towards the masakin. But in terms of action as well, he always wanted to be close to them as well. So you can see from that how close he wanted to live to the poor inhabitants of the city of Madina Sharif. Remember, our Prophet ﷺ used to supplicate, Allahumma ahyini miskinan wa amitni miskinan wa ahshurni fi zumratil masakin. Oh Allah, give me life with the poor people, give me death with the poor people, and resurrect me on the day of judgment with the poor people as well. A lot of people talk about sympathy with the poor. Our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he went further and he actually proved it physically as well. The first two slides then show the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam's mosque during his time in particular. Now we come to the 17th year of Hijrah, in the time of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu. As the Muslims increased, Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he felt the need to extend the mosque. And so this resulted in extensions on most of the sides. At the south side, which is basically the front of the mosque, it was extended by 5 meters. And on the west hand side and to the north side being the back side, it was extended to about 10 meters to the west and about 15 meters to the north as well. For the first, on this side here, Babu Salam was added. So that was the works of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and also Babu Nisa on this side was also added by Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Then we come about 12 years later, in the time and in the caliphate of Sayyidina Usman radiallahu ta'ala anhu. He too extended the mosque of our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Importantly, he extended it at the front side, meaning the Qibla side. And this was the last time that the Qibla or the mosque has been extended on this south Qibla side. Since the time of Sayyidina Usman radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and indeed until today, no one has ever extended further. It has remained as so. You might know that the Saudis, they want to extend the mosque in that direction. If they do that, then it will be going against what has happened for the last 1,400 years. It is something which has always been the case, that Sayyidina Usman radiallahu ta'ala anhu ensured that nothing was extended beyond that as well. Sayyidina Usman spent great amount of wealth on this extension. He extended it vastly to the size of about 5,000 square meters during his caliphate. And subhanallah, Sayyidina Usman radiallahu ta'ala anhu himself, he took part in the construction and extension of the Prophet's mosque. We move forward now to the end of the first Islamic century, when the Umayyads, they had the control of Madina Sharif. They were true ashiqs, and they certainly gave true consideration for the mosque of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in particular Walid and Umar bin Abdul Aziz radiallahu ta'ala anhu. For the first time, minarets were added to the mosque of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In terms of height, and subhanallah, is quite an achievement for that time. They were quite tall, 27.5 meters tall. So think about, the advancement of technology or development engineering at that time. That was quite an achievement for that time. So it shows how much consideration and how much respect they had for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's mosque. Whereas before there were limited amount of doors, now by the end of the first Islamic century, the mosque had 20 doors. And then with the actual Hujra Mubarakah, and we will talk about this, and I'll show this slide later, is that Sayyidina Umar bin Abdul Aziz radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he built walls around the final resting place of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in a pentagon shape. Not in a cube shape, but it's 5-sided basically. And inshallah you will see what he did with that and how he did that later in the slides. Then we come to the middle of the second Islamic century. This is in the time of the Abbasid ruler al-Mahdi. He extended the mosque going northwards, that way, and then here in the center, that is the ablution area. So again, consideration was taken for the people who were performing salah, and those people who were in the first saf, he made that a shaded area as well. The ceiling was also extended in that time as well. So this is in the middle of the second century. Now we move forward. We move forward to about 600-700 years now. And now we come to the time of Sultan Qalawun. Sultan Qalawun was the first to put a dome over the Hujra Mubarakah, what I will refer to as the sacred chamber of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Originally, this was made of wood. And bad weather and thunderstorms and the likes, unfortunately, did damage the dome. And over the next few years, and indeed decades, the likes of Sultan Qutb and the likes of Sultan Mahmud, they helped to build the dome upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's final resting place. They also built smaller domes right around the mosque. And these was made from lead, and they remained there for a large part of our history as well. We will talk more about the actual dome, the green dome, inshallah ta'ala, in a few slides later. But the green dome itself, it first got painted green quite recently, in fact, in 1837. Sultan Abdul Hamid certainly deserves a mention when it comes to the extension and renovation of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's mosque. He, in the middle of the 19th century, he spent millions of dinars, you could say, renovating and decorating the mosque of our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. He managed to get hold of the best calligraphers to write the names of Allah and the names of our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam all around the mosque. He improved the inside, he improved the outside, and he spent a lot of money and a lot of effort in trying to ensure that this mosque was the most beautiful mosque of them all. When we look at the Middle Ages, and when we look at what the Ottomans did in particular, we will find that at all times they had utmost respect for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam when they were extending and when they were constructing this mosque. It is said that when it came to even putting wood together, for example, or anything which resulted in noise, they would actually leave the area of the Prophet's mosque and they would go to the outskirts of the city. And they would, just to protect the integrity of our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, they did not want to cause any sound near them. And they truly believed in the verse, لا ترفعوا أصواتكم فوق صوت النبي, that do not raise your voices above the voice of our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. So adaban wa ihtiraman, they would go outside the city to do the heavy, noisy construction work, and only then they would bring it back into the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's mosque. And then more recently, in the 20th century, it was King Abdul Aziz in the 20th century who extended the mosque to the east, to the west, and to the north, and which cost him about 70 million Saudi riyals. And now the mosque itself was a much larger, it was about 6,000 square meters. And then more recently now, King Fahd, and this was in and about 1990 onwards, he started enormous extension of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's mosque, and that is in its current form now. So this goes back to about 1990. Now it's extended it to 82,000 square meters. It's increased the capacity by ninefold, and it's cost him about 72 billion riyals. And to the extent that today the actual mosque itself can accommodate 535,000 worshippers. The actual mosque now, what you see, is basically the whole city of Madina in the time of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. That's how big the actual mosque is. Then you have the white marble outside, which is covering about 190,000 square meters. And as we speak, I believe that to the north side, which is the back side basically, they are going to knock down the 5, 6, 7 rows of hotel, and they're going to extend the mosque so that it goes right back down to the ring road. And then they I think they aim to extend it on the Baqi side as well. We come to the sacred chamber now, the Hujra of Sayyidah Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha. Let me take a moment to explain the significance of this particular chamber. Currently, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is buried in the room or the Hujra of Sayyidah Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha. And at the same place is also the burial site of Sayyiduna Abu Bakr Siddiq radiyallahu ta'ala anhu and Sayyiduna Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. A fourth place has been reserved for the return of Sayyiduna Isa alayhi salam. According to reports, the likes of Imam Tirmidhi rahmatullahi alayhi, Sayyiduna Isa will return to earth and he will be buried next to the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Each of the Prophet's wives, they had a hujra, a chamber, and in terms of size this measured about 5 meters by 5 meters. They were one next to one another, and it was in the hujra of Sayyidah Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam was buried. There's a good reason for this. Why is our Prophet buried in the Hujra of Sayyida Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha? According to the report of Sayyiduna Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu, who narrated it directly from our Prophet, that every single Prophet and Messenger is always buried in the exact spot where they pass away. So, when he was ill, our Prophet ﷺ went to each one of his blessed wives and sought permission to spend his final moments with Sayyida Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha. They all gave permission. So the Prophet ﷺ left this world from the Hujra of Sayyida Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha. Sayyida Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha herself reports that I saw a dream, and in that dream I saw that 3 moons, they fell into my lap. There were 3 moons and all of them fell into my lap. The next morning, Sayyida Aisha went to her father, Sayyiduna Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala, and asked about the interpretation of this dream. Later, when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was buried in her room, Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq went to her and said, this is the interpretation of the dream that you had. This is the actual interpretation. As you know, Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq later was also buried next to our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu was on his deathbed, then he sent his son, Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, to Sayyida Aisha and sought her permission to be buried next to our Master sallallahu alaihi wasallam and next to Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq. Sayyida Aisha said to Abdullah that, look, I had actually wanted this place for myself, but happily, without any grudge whatsoever, I will give this place to you, Ya Umar. Upon which, when Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala heard this news, then he said that nothing is more important to me than to be buried in that sacred place. This is the most important part of my life, he could say. And from this as well, you can imagine that to be buried next to the Salihin, the pious people, this is the sunnah of the companions, Ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'in. This is something that they sought as well. It is worthy of mention as well that Sayyida Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, when she used to do the ziyarah, before Sayyidina Umar was buried there, then sometimes she would go there to the hujra, sometimes covering her head, sometimes not covering her head. But when Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu was buried there, she always used to go with parda, she always ensured that her head was covered. Meaning that the respect that she showed for Sayyidina Umar was as if he was still alive. You would expect that kind of behavior from her when he was alive. She done exactly the same when he passed away too. Now you can understand where the 3 moons come from in the report, in the dream of Sayyida Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha. Who were they? There was the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq and Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhuma. This is the interpretation of the dream that Sayyida Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha had. This is how the construction took place in the time of Sayyidina Umar bin Abdul Aziz. This is at the end of the 1st Islamic century. So in the middle there you can see the Hujra Mubarakah, and then Umar bin Abdul Aziz, he built these 5 walls around it. You see that here that is pointed here, that is in the direction of Ashab al-Sufa. Deliberately he did not build 4 walls, he did not want it to resemble the Kaaba Sharif. He was wary that people might start doing ziyarah around it, or might, start doing tawaf around it and so forth. So he wanted it to make sure that people do not commit any bid'ah there whatsoever. So he made it into 5 walls, and that pointed part is in actually the direction of Ashab al-Sufa towards the north as well. Note as well, there's absolutely no door whatsoever. It was all sealed. That there was no actual entrance to that part at all. This bit here now is the bit that Sayyidina Umar bin Abdul Aziz built, and then later we see the outer walls, which is the Jali Mubarak now. This is an old picture of the Jali Mubarak. And then when you look sometimes through the Jali Mubarak, what are you actually looking at? You are looking at that there. On top of the final exact resting place of our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, a dome was built in the Middle Ages. This is called Qubbatun Nur, the Dome of Nur. So this is directly above the final resting place of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I don't know if you can see, but there's a black part there. That black part is like a window. Otherwise, again, it is totally secluded. There is no entrance to it. The only way you can get to that, when you see the final resting place of our Prophet, is through that small window. So when you see the green dome, do not think of it as one dome. Inside it there is actually a smaller dome. And the name of this dome is Qubbatun Nur. This, what I just showed there then, this dome here, this is this part here. So there's that little window that I was talking about. Here is the final resting place of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now there's two lines drawn here. In the Middle Ages, what the Muslims did is that they put lead into this part here to protect the final resting place of our Prophet. During the Crusades, and unfortunately during the history, some Gustafs, some idiots basically, they tried to harm the final resting place of our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So what the sultans and the kings did is that they put lead there, so from underground no one could actually access the final resting place of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is the smaller dome. The larger dome was built later in the Middle Ages. Where you see this window here, parallel to that, the green dome also has a small window and opening as well. You can still see that today. You can still actually see that as well. Then you have the fences around there on both sides, over there as well. And you can see that the dome itself then consists of two domes. This middle inner dome, by the way, does have the name of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq and Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu inscribed on it. So that is untouched. That, alhamdulillah, is still there in that state. Since then, there have been many changes to the al-Masjid al-Nabawi. Some of it is justified, some of it is perhaps not justified. Some of it, unfortunately, has been based upon the beliefs of the Saudis, and they have made changes to it accordingly. That they have sometimes taken things away, they may have taken away some types of scriptures, and they are encouraging certain type of behavior. One particular behavior that you will see is that when you go to the final resting place of our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, when it comes to doing dua, they say yes, you can do salam facing the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. But when it comes to performing a dua, then what they say is to turn 180 degrees and face the Qibla Sharif. So they encourage people as much as possible to turn your back to the Prophet and face towards the Qibla. Imam Malik radiallahu ta'ala anhu was asked about this. That when we go to the final resting place of our Messenger, and once we have done our salam, and when we want to do a dua, which direction should we face in? So he was asked this question, and the person asking the question was Abu Ja'far. He said, Ya Abu Abdullah, أستقبل القبلة وأدعو أم أستقبل رسول الله وأدعو. That, oh Imam Malik, do we face the Qibla and do dua, or do we face the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and do dua? What was the answer of Imam Malik? He said, Subhanallah, وَلِمَا تَصْرِفُ وَجْهَكَ عَنْهُ وَهُوَ وَسِيلَتُكَ وَوَسِيلَةُ أَبِيكَ آدَمْ عَلَيْهِ السَّلَامِ إِلَى اللَّهِ تَعَالَى يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ.
Nare Takbir, Nare Risala.
He said, why are you going to turn your face away from the Prophet when he is your wasila and he is the wasila of your forefather until the day of judgment, Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam? That you should be performing a dua towards it. In this day and age, unfortunately, they do restrict people. They try to tell you to face the other way. But interestingly, if anyone questions you, then just say I'm acting upon the sunnah of King Abdullah, who himself is seen here performing a dua facing the Rozai Bak. But overall, jokes aside, if you do go there, if they do tell you to face the other way, just face the other way. Don't get into a fight. There's no need for that, especially in that place there. Just go to the back and perform dua. The main purpose is to do the hazri. The purpose is not to fight with these people. So I'm telling you this for your own benefit. I'm not telling you to go there and start fighting with these people. It's perhaps best, I mean, when I was younger, and I think it was just young blood, I suppose, that I did bring up with one of the gods this whole quote from Imam Malik. he said to me, face the other way. And I said to him, I'm acting upon the qawl of Imam Malik. And alhamdulillah, he never said anything to me, but later I realized I shouldn't have even said that. Because since then, I mean, sometimes they are quite harsh with them. They sometimes take you away and they put you in prison and they lock you up. Any type of banter, any type of objections, they take very seriously. So please show utmost respect there. Do not try to fight them. To go there, do dua, whichever way you can, do it. And respect the place as much as possible. Likewise, there have been changes to the railings, unfortunately. This is the railings, but you see through it and you see what we call the Jali Mubarak. And beyond that, you can see the final resting place of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I've given you the first picture here because this is the bit I want to show you in more detail. This bit here and this bit here. If we go to the next slide, this is what this railing used to look like. It used to say, Ya Allah, Ya Muhammad. Until very recently. You can probably see Muhammad then, you can see the Ya there as well. If you say Muhammad there, the meme, second meme from Muhammad. They've changed it now. So what they did is, deliberately, they didn't want Ya Muhammad there. So they changed it to Ya Majid, which is one of Allah's names. This happened in my time actually. And then I believe that since then, they've got rid of that as well. And now it just says, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. So there are some subtle changes, unfortunately, they have done to try to put a certain aqidah across. Having said all of that, I'm not going to dwell on that. What I would like to do, I think, is more important. Let's be positive about it. And let's look at some of the remaining old relics in the mosque of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. You might be familiar with this. This is the door of Fatima radiallahu ta'ala anha. This is a beautiful door and it goes back many centuries. On there is an actual door and you can probably see there is a key there. I'm going to show you a close-up of the key. This is the close-up of the key, and what is written on this key is still there. I only saw it months ago. هو الحبيب الذي ترجى شفاعته لكل هول من الأحوال المقتحمين. This is the Qasida Burda Sharif, subhanallah. The Qasida Burda Sharif of Imam Busiri rahmatullahi alayh. It is still there. So when you go there, do the ziyarah of that. Likewise, the front of the mosque. This was done by Sultan Mahmud II, right across the old mosque. It's absolutely beautiful calligraphy and beautiful color as well. It's amazing. All the way across. This is Surah Fat, I believe. Is it Surah Fat or is it Surah Yasin? It's Surah Fat. From beginning to end, Surah Fat, it's got beautiful verses. This bit here, they're all descriptions of our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam as taken from Dalailul Khairat. Nabiyul Rahmah, Nabiyul Tawbah, Sahibul Taj, Sahibul Mi'raj. When you go there, take a moment from beginning to end to go through the beautiful names of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The beautiful calligraphy, it is still there for you to observe. Likewise, when you go to the final resting place of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you will see two white pillars here, and then I've got different pictures there. This one is perhaps not so clear. On these two pillars, in green and gold, number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4, there are lines, 4 lines. The poem itself is 4 lines. It's lines of one poem split into 4 parts. This poem itself is known as the poem of Utbi. And there is a very famous story about that. I'll spend just a moment explaining that. 3 days after the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam left this world, Sayyidina Ali karramallahu wajhahul kareem reports that an Arabi, a Bedouin, an outsider, a villager, he came to the final resting place of our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He did salam, he read the verse, وَلَوْ أَنَّهُمْ إِذْ أَنفُسَهُمْ جَاءُوكَ فَاسْتَغْفَرُوا اللَّهَ وَاسْتَغْفَرَ لَهُمُ الرَّسُولُ لَوَجَدُوا اللَّهَ تَوَّابًا رَحِيمًا. That if anyone has, when you do wrong upon yourself, then what should you do? Ya Rasulullah, they should come to you. They should seek forgiveness. The Prophet should seek forgiveness, and certainly they will find Allah to be the most forgiving, the most merciful. This Bedouin, he read this verse, and then he read a line of this poem. He read, Ya khayra man dufinat fihi turaba a'zumuhu, fataba minti bihinna al-ka'u wal-akam, nafsi al-fida'a likabra anta sakinahu, fihi al-afafu wa fihi al-judu wal-karamu. That's what's written on these 4 pillars. What does this poem mean? It says, oh, the best person ever laid to rest, when his blessed body touched the earth, his perfumed bones made the earth and the surrounding forest fragrant. May my soul be sacrificed for the tomb you reside in. In it there is purity, generosity and nobleness.
Nare Takbir, Nare Risalat, Nare Risalat.
Ya Rasul.
He recited this poem and he disappeared. And then Utbi, he was there and he fell asleep next to the final resting place of our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. In his dream, Utbi saw our messenger, peace be upon him. And the messenger instructed Utbi, he said, go and find that Arabi and tell him that because of this poem and because of his adab, he has been forgiven by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, the full story on our website, the full story has been mentioned. Go to Islamic Center and just type in Utbi, and inshallah ta'ala you will find the full article. So I mentioned all of the reports, all of the narrations, and then you can understand the importance of this story. I mentioned about 4 narrations of it. I have bought some photocopies of this, but I would prefer if you just read it off the internet. If you haven't got access to the internet, highly unlikely, but take a copy on your way out. There's some copies upstairs as well for our sisters too. So when you go past the final resting place of our Prophet, please do have a look at this poem. It's a beautiful poem. Read the story behind it as well, so you can fully appreciate it as well. There's many beautiful pillars in the old mosque which have important significance. I'm going to mention 5 or 6 of them. And I'll try to the best of my ability to tell you the location as well, so that you know exactly where they are and you can take full benefit of them. Number 1, perhaps the most famous of them. Al-Ustawana. Ustawana means pillar. Al-Ustawana al-Hunana. This is behind the mihrab, so I think it's this one here. This is the exact place where the tree stump used to be, upon which the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to deliver the Friday khutbah from. You know the story very well, that our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to stand and lean on it, and then the companions built him a proper mimbar. And then when he started using the proper mimbar, there was a wail, a cry almost. That's what hunana means. It means the crying of a camel. A wail was to be heard. And it was that the tree stump actually wailing because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had parted company from it. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam went to the tree stump, comforted it, and told him that you will be in Jannah with me. And then it stopped wailing thereafter. But the remains of that is still under this pillar. You will see that I think the mi'rab is just about here where the Imam nowadays reads. So this is the entrance, this is Riyadul Jannah, this is the entrance where they come in from. So it's just behind the mihrab. This is called Al-Ustawana Al-Mukhallaka or Al-Ustawana Hunana. Ustawana Aisha, this is near there. This again is a very important pillar. Why is it called Ustawana Aisha? Because Aisha is the one who identified its exact location. It is also called the Ustawana Qur'a. Qur'a in Arabic means lots. You know when you can't decide something and you throw lots, for example. Put names into a hat. Why is it so called? Our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to spend a lot of time here performing ibadah. And he said that this place here, that if people knew the true virtue of performing salah and performing zikr here, then they would fight with one another to be here. They would have to draw lots in order to decide who actually performs salah there, for example. Sayyidah Aisha, for a long time, she knew the exact location of this. Eventually, she told others about where this exact location is. Another famous pillar is the pillar of Abu Lubaba. From the picture, you might have a good idea where this is. This is the Jali Mubarak. It is this pillar here. It's in Riyadul Jannah. The story behind it, very briefly, Abu Lubaba was a companion of our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. He was sent by him to Banu Qurayza. And he was supposed to give a message to him. But unfortunately, he slipped more information than he should have. And he felt guilty and he felt bad that I have gone against the command of my Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He came back to the Prophet's mosque. He felt really bad and he tied himself to this pillar. So he basically handcuffed himself to it. And he said, I'm not going to move from here until my messenger has forgiven me. So people came and said to him, look, the messenger has forgiven you. He said, no, that's not good enough. I want the messenger himself to come and release me. So eventually the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam came and released him. This is in Riyadul Jannah. At the back side of Ashab al-Sufa, there were 3 pillars. 1, 2, 3. This one here is Wufud, this one here is Ali, and this one here is Sarir. The significance of them. Number one, first of all, wufood. What does wufood mean? Wufood means delegation. When traveling parties used to come from outside Madina Sharif, then they would come to meet the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam at this particular point. The other one, the wufood of Ali radiallahu ta'ala wa karramallahu wajhahu, is also called the wufood of Hars. What is this? This is where Sayyidina Ali in particular used to stand to guard the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So they used to protect our messenger. So this is the place where they used to protect him. Almost like guards. That's what Hars means. Hars means to protect. And then when the verse Wallahu ya'asimuka minan nas was revealed, then the Prophet ﷺ instructed Sayyidina Ali and the others who used to perform this duty that there is no need for you to stand there anymore. And sarir, if those who know Arabic know it means bed. The Prophet ﷺ sometimes used to sleep in this particular area. So this is again a place of great barakah. The pillar of Tahajjud, Ustawana Tahajjud. This is where the Prophet ﷺ used to perform the optional night prayers, the Tahajjud prayers. Where it is exactly, this is at Riyadul Jannah. There's a massive Quran bookcase there. When you go this way, that is where the Rawza Rasul is, that's where you give salam. So now you can't actually see it, but it's there's massive loads and loads of Quranic bookcases there. This is an old picture, and it shows you, it gives you a rough idea of what it looked like before the bookcases were put there. But this is the particular place where the Prophet ﷺ used to perform the Tahajjud prayer. Again, this is the old part of the Prophet ﷺ's mosque. If you look closely in the old area of the Prophet ﷺ's mosque, if you have an opportunity, perhaps when it is less busy, you will find that a lot of the old pillars, they are not completely in line. And the reason being is that the Ottomans and the likes, they put them there because they had religious significance. They didn't put there because, engineering wise or structurally wise, it made sense to put it there. And when you do go there, then on some of the pillars at the top, you might see calligraphy like this. I think it says Haza Masjid Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. This, what it does basically, it marks where the old mosque used to be. There's 4 or 5 pillars, for example. If you find them, you will see this written at the top, and that will give you an idea of where the exact location of the original mosque actually lies. So next time, inshallah ta'ala, you are there, do look out for this area. To conclude then, inshallah, I'm going to spend some time looking at the ahadith, which is the second part of the program, to look at the ahadith relating to the city of Madina Sharif, and in particular the final resting place of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I'm going to share with you perhaps just over a dozen reports. But having said that, there are countless reports which talk about the superiority of Madina Sharif and talk about the final resting place of our Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I'll give you one example. This is a beautiful book that I picked up a few years ago from Madina Sharif. 70 fadilatan min fadail al-Madinat al-Munawwara. 70 in the superiority of Madina Sharif. So in here he mentions 60 ahadith and 10 verses from the Quran, all extolling the virtues of Madina Sharif. This is just a pamphlet, as you can see. It's not a comprehensive work, but at least it gives you an idea of how much work and how many ahadith there are which talk about the superiority of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's mosque. First hadith. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said in a report recorded by Sayyidina Abu Hurairah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he said that Salatun fi masjidi haza khayrun min alfi salatin fi ma siwa illa al-Masjid al-Haram. One prayer in this mosque, meaning the Prophet's mosque, is better than 1,000 prayers in any other mosque except for al-Masjid al-Haram. Imam Nawawi rahmatullahi alayhi, he says that please pay close attention to the wording of our Prophet. He didn't say it's equal to 1,000 prayers, he said it's better than 1,000 prayers. How much better? Is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Second hadith, again this is a report from Bukhari Sharif, and again reported by Sayyidina Abu Hurairah. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, لا تشد الرحال إلا إلى ثلاثة مساجد al-Masjid al-Haram, wal-Masjid al-Rasul, wal-Masjid al-Aqsa. That our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam said that if you are going to travel for the sake of a mosque, then travel to these 3 mosques. And included in that is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's mosque. Famously, our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Ma bayna bayti wa minbari rawdatun min riyadil jannah." That whatever is between my house and between my minbar is a garden from the gardens of paradise. So this part here is actually taken, it's actually still there. So as the entrance to Riyadh al-Jannah, you will find that above your head. So that is the actual hadith itself. What does my house mean? My house now means his final resting place. So that area between that and between the minbar. If you haven't been before, you will know for sure this area. Why? Because it has the old pillars there and it has a different coloured carpet. It has a much lighter carpet, so you will know instantly that this is the Rawdatul Jannah. A garden from the gardens of paradise. What does that exactly mean? Now when our messenger said that this area is a garden from the gardens of paradise, what do we mean by that? Imam Nawawi rahmatullahi alayh, he said that there were two opinions as to what exactly this means. The first opinion is that this area will be transferred by Allah into Jannah in the hereafter. So this area of the dunya will be taken as it is to Jannah. And remember that this world, what is its worth to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Absolutely nothing. This world is worthless to Allah. It's not even worth the wings of a fly. But when it comes to the final resting place and this area of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's mosque, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deems it so important and precious that it will be taken to Jannah. The second opinion is that it means that whoever performs salah here, then, and whoever does askar here, and whoever recites the Quran here, then reciting Quran, reciting zikr, and performing salah will lead to Jannah in the hereafter. That is the second possible meaning. Why is this area special? Quite simple, because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam spent a prolonged period of time there. This is the area where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to sit, where he used to walk, where he used to talk to the companions. So think for yourself now, any place where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam sat, where he walked, where he did zikr, is going to be a place of importance, isn't it? And it is only on that basis that people try to visit the cave of Hira. That is the purpose behind it. It is only with this purpose that people want to go to the Mawlid, the birthplace of our Prophet in Makkah Sharif. Why? Because our Prophet was there. So it is based on this analogy. We are not doing anything which is bid'ah, which is wrong. Rather, we are applying our analogy, going back to the saying of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Likewise, he said that this member of mine is on a gate, a tur'a, from the gates of paradise. Again, highlighting the virtue of those places where our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would sit and where he would stand. A very famous hadith. Sayyidina Anas reports, "Man salla fi masjidi arba'ina salatan, la yafutuhu salatun, kutibat lahu bara'atun min al-nar, wa najatun min al-azab, wa bari'a min al-nifaq." This is an established practice of many Muslims throughout the world, is that the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam said, whoever performs 40 salahs continuously without missing any, then he, inshallah, will get three things. Number one, he will be free from the fire of hell. Number two, he will be safe from the punishment. And number three, that he will be immune, he will be protected from hypocrisy. So as if you do have the opportunity, then you need to stay about 8 days. Do try to perform salah for 40 days continuously. I have heard, although I haven't come across the report myself, I did come across an individual who lives in Madina. He told me that it's not just the Prophet's mosque, but any mosque. If you perform 40 continuous prayers in any mosque, then the same outcome is for you. That you will be free from hypocrisy and so forth. But obviously the report that I have come across, and most people are famous with, is specific to the mosque of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This report had been taken from Imam Ahmad and Imam at-Tabarani. Our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in a report recorded by Imam Ahmad that min hina yakhruju ahadukum min baytihi ila masjidi farijlun taqtubu hasanatan wa rijlun tamhu sayyi'ah. Every single step that you take towards the Prophet's mosque, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will write a hasanah for you, and Allah will forgive a sayyi'ah from you. So subhanallah, again it shows the great virtue of visiting the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's mosque. It is not just the ahadith which talk about the value and the superiority of the Prophet's mosque. Even in the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَمَسْجِدٌ أُسِّسَ عَلَى التَّقْوَى مِنْ أَوَّلِ يَوْمٍ أَحَقُّ أَن تَقُومَ فِيهِ. That a mosque built on taqwa is better from the first day, it's better that you stand in it. The Prophet ﷺ was asked about this Quranic verse. Which mosque is it talking about? To which our messenger said, Masjidi, it refers to my mosque. My mosque is built on taqwa from the first day. Other report, because the next part of the verse, other reports suggest that it might be Masjid al-Quba, rather than the Prophet ﷺ's mosque. That this verse is referring to Masjid al-Quba. But as Ibn Kasir explains, there is absolutely no ikhtilaf or no problem with that. Why? Because he writes, if Quba mosque is built on taqwa from the first day, then the Prophet's mosque certainly will be so as well. So there's no ikhtilaf in it whatsoever. Certainly this verse can be referring to our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's mosque. From a very early period, everyone has referred to this beautiful city as al-Madinatul Munawwara, the enlightened city, the illuminated city. The Munawwara is a description of al-Madina. Why do we do that? Sayyidina Anas radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he reports that the day that our Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam entered Madina Sharif, ada'a min al-Madinati kullu shay. That it seems miraculously, subhanallah, everything became enlightened. So from that moment onwards, the city became known as al-Madinatul Munawwara, the city of light, the illuminated city. So we think of it in the best possible way in that sense as well. Talking about the city in general now, our Prophet ﷺ, in a hadith recorded by Imam Bukhari and Muslim, said that إِنَّ الْإِيمَانَ لَيَعْرِضُ إِلَى الْمَدِينَةِ كَمَا تَعْرِضُ الْحَيَّةِ إِلَى جُحْرِهَا. That Iman undoubtedly returns to Al-Madinah just like a snake returns to its hole. So Iman will always exist in Madina Sharif. It is a center of faith. Importantly as well, if Iman resides and always returns to the city of Medina, then it means that the Ahlul Iman will always want to go to Medina. If, like the majority of Muslims, you have a desire to return and return and return to Medina Sharif, that you yearn for the city of Medina Sharif, then know very well that this is a sign of faith for you. If you think of Medina and the Green Dome each and every moment, then subhanallah, this is actually a sign of your faith as well. The Prophet ﷺ, time and time again, he would pray for this beautiful city. In one particular dua, he said, Allahumma habbib ilayna al-Madinata kama habbabta Makkata aw ashad. Oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, make Medina beloved to us just like you have made Makkah beloved to us. Aw ashad, or even more. Certainly this dua of our Messenger ﷺ has been accepted because Medina resides in every Muslim's heart. The Prophet ﷺ also talked about the protection of this beautiful city. He said that the Dajjal will never enter the city of Medina. On the day that he tries to, there will be 2 angels guarding the 7 gates to the city. Incidentally, this picture here will give you an idea of how much extension will go now. That this is the front part of the mosque, this is the back part. These are the hotels at the moment. And this bit here is the white marbles. They're planning to extend the mosque right up until there. That's the ring road there. So it gives you an idea of how big over the next decade or so they actually want to build a mosque. All of these 5-star hotels, they are going to be demolished in the next 2-3 years. So from that you get an idea of how big the Prophet's mosque sallallahu alayhi wasallam will be. Likewise, our Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam warned against causing any havoc, causing any hatred, causing any trouble to the people of Medina. And in a very strong worded hadith, he said, Man arada ahl al-Madinati bisu azabahu Allahu kama yazubul milhu fil ma. Imam Muslim reports that if anyone tries to cause trouble for the people of Medina, Allah will dissolve them. Just like salt dissolves into water. I think Yazid is a perfect example who has been dissolved under this hadith. And likewise for those people who intend ill with the city of Medina, they should be warned about this particular saying of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Medina is not the only name of this beautiful city. And our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sammal Madinata Taaba. Allah has called the city Taaba. Taaba and Taiba come from the same word. Imam Nawawi explains that it comes from Tib. Tib means beautiful fragrance. When we say Madina Taiba, it means Madina Taiba, the city of fragrance. That is what it means. It can also come from the word Tayyib. Tayyib means what? Park, clean from shirk, Imam Nawawi rahmatullah alayhi writes. So whether it is Taba or Taiba, it means two things. It means beautifully fragrance, or it means beautifully park, beautifully tahir in that respect as well. Remember, before the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam appeared, this city was known as Yasrib. Yasrib means bimari, house of illness. Forget the water, people used to breathe the air there and they used to get ill. That is how the situation was in Yasrib. As soon as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam appeared there, then everything became park and everything became clean. It was not the worst place to live, instead it became, subhanallah, the best possible place to live. It became the most park and most cleanest of all places. So on that basis, when the Prophet ﷺ appeared in this beautiful city, he stopped and prohibited people from calling it Yasrib anymore. He said it is no longer Yasrib. Man sammal Madinata Yasrib falyastagfirillah. Whoever calls the city Yasrib, then he should seek forgiveness from Allah. Hiya Taba, hiya Taba. It is Taba, Taiba, it is Taba. The Prophet ﷺ also indicated that the people of Medina would be very special as well. One example to show that, he said that يُشِكُ النَّاسِ أَنْ يَضْرِبُوا أَقْبَادَ الْإِبِلِ فَلَا يَجِدُونَ عَالِمًا أَعْلَمْ مِنْ عَالِمِ الْمَدِينَةِ. That people will soon embark, our Prophet ﷺ said. And they will try to find people of knowledge, but they will realize that they will not find anyone more learned than the scholar of Medina. Now, in this hadith sharif, the Prophet ﷺ said the scholar of Medina. So from that, you get the impression that he's talking about one particular individual. So here our Prophet ﷺ is predicting that there will be a man from my ummah, from the city of Medina Sharif, who will be Who is this great scholar? Imam Tirmidhi rahmatullah alayhi reports from Ibn Uyayna, and according to him, it is Malik bin Anas radiyallahu ta'ala, the great Imam, the author of the Muwatta, one of the four great Imams of our religion. He was a Madani by nature, he was a Madani by heart as well. He had utmost respect and love for the city of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In his fatwas, and subhanallah, this fatwa is in this book here as well, he once said that if anyone says that the soil of Medina is not good, then he should be lashed 30 times. That is how strong he was. People used to come to him to ask fiqh questions. If they asked him fiqh questions, then he would give the answer. At the door he'd say, here's your question, here's the answer. However, when people used to come to him to ask a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what did he used to do? He used to shut the door, he used to disappear, he used to have a bath, he used to put on his cleanest clothes, he used to put a perfume on, and he used to perform salah, then he would recite the hadith in front of that person. This is how much respect he had for the city of Madina Sharif. And it is very famous that he never rode an animal in the city of our messenger, out of respect. He did not want to be higher than the final resting place of our messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Even in this day and age, I have seen that many people, they walk barefooted in the city of Madina Sharif. This is out of adab, this is out of respect. There is no harm in doing that whatsoever. Even the soil, and we just talked about the soil of Madina Sharif. Sayyida Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, she reports that whenever any person fell ill or had a disease, then what would the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam do to cure that person? He would put his blessed fingers on the soil of Madina Sharif. He would lift it and he would recite Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and then he would say this beautiful saying. He would say, Bismillahi turbatu ardina birikate ba'dina liyushfa bihi sakimuna bi'izni rabbina. The dust of our ground with the saliva of any one of us would serve as a means whereby our illness would be cured with the permission of Allah. So even in the mitti, even in the soil of Madina Sharif, there is shifa for you and I. This is specific to Madina Sharif only. So this is the barakah of, and now you can understand why people walk barefooted in this city. They want that barakah to get directly to their body as well. So this is again shows the fazila of our Prophet's and sallallahu alayhi wasallam's city. Last hadith, basically Madina Sharif is a place which is fit to live. It is a place which is fit to die in as well. Our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam said, Man istata'a minkum an yamuta bil madinati falyamut biha fa inni ashfa'a liman yamutu biha. That whosoever can die in the city of al-Madina Sharif should do so. For indeed I will perform intercession for the one who dies in Medina. Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, subhanallah, you know his dua very well, that he used to perform what seemed for many people a contradictory dua. He used to say, Ya Allah, I want martyrdom, but Ya Allah, I want to die in the city of your Habib. And people at the time used to say that, Ya Umar, how is that going to happen? If you want martyrdom, you have to leave the city. And then you want to die in the city as well. He was granted both. He was granted both because it was a non-Muslim who stabbed him with a dagger. He died because of that illness. He became a martyr because of that. And where did he die? He died in the city of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam. Unfortunately, there are a handful of people who object to the city of Madina Sharif. They do not in any way object to any of the ahadith that I have mentioned to you. And to be honest, they can't, because all of the hadiths that I have mentioned are authentic. They are mentioned time and time again in all of the books of ahadith written and compiled by the great scholars of hadith. There are some people, the likes of Ibn bin Baz, they say that, look, go to Madina Sharif, but don't go with the intention of ziyarah. So they're being a bit pedantic here. They're saying, yes, we don't mind you going to the Prophet's mosque, but don't go with the intention of visiting the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Go with the intention of visiting the mosque. So they're almost splitting the atom in terms of, what they expect you to do. They add, and this, unfortunately, it is part of their own propagation. Sometimes you're given free literature by the Saudis, and this is actually direct from them, written by Bin Baz. And I've taken a quote directly. What they say is that, look, they tell the Hajis that, look, visiting the grave of the Prophet is not an obligation upon you. Say it's not wajib upon you. And they go on and say that if you live far, then don't bother, basically. Astaghfirullah. They say that with the purpose of visiting the grave, don't even come to Madina Sharif. And perhaps most damaging, they say all the ahadith which refer to visiting the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's grave are weak and they are fabricated. There's a very, very serious claim. And in particular, he points out two hadiths. Number one, he who performs the Hajj and does not visit me will have shunned me. Faqad jafani. They say this hadith is mawdu, meaning that the Prophet never said it. That is what Bin Baz is trying to say. And then the second hadith that they say is fabricated is that he who visits me after my death is just like him who visits me during my lifetime. So they claim that this hadith is certainly weak. It is probably mawdu, fabricated. Note that these hadiths talk about specifically visiting the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So they say that you don't have to come, number one, and if you do, don't do so with the intention of visiting your Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The answer to that, when it comes to these two hadiths, I'm sorry, the hadiths aren't weak. Your aqidah is weak. The hadith is not forged or fabricated or da'if. It is your muhabbat for Sayyidina Rasulullah which is da'if. This hadith, I'm sorry to say, is mentioned in so many books of our hadith that I can't imagine for a moment how they have managed to decree this at least da'if. It's quite staggering, to be honest, that hadith academia has suggested that this hadith is fabricated. There's one rule of hadith criticism. The rule of hadith criticism is that if you say that this hadith is sahih, then you don't have to back up the reasons why it is sahih. You don't have to back up why it is accepted. But if you decree a hadith as a scholar, if you decree a hadith to be weak or fabricated, now you have to give evidence. Now you have to show me the groundwork. Now you have to show me the investigations as to why you think this hadith is fabricated. There is not one piece of evidence from Albani or Ibn Bin Baz or the likes to prove to me why this hadith is fabricated. He just written it's da'if, it's mawdu, and that's it. That's bad academia. It's really, really bad academia, I'm sorry to say. So they've done nothing to actually show that this hadith is fabricated or da'if. Rather, what we find is that this hadith that have been mentioned, and similar sounding ones, there are so many of them that not for a moment can we think that they have been fabricated. I'll read a couple. This is taken from Imam Nabahani's work, Shawahid al-Haq. Man zarani ba'da mawti faka'annama zarani fi hayati. Whoever visits me after death, then it is like he has visited me in my lifetime. Man ja'ani za'iran la ta'maluhu hajatun illa ziyadati haqqan aliyya an akuna lahu shafi'an yawm al-qiyamah. Whoever visits me as a visitor, and he does not mean anything except my visit, then it is my haqq, my right to perform shafa'ah for him on the day of judgment. Man hajja fazara qabri ba'da mawti faka'annama kan zarani fi hayati wa sahibani. There's so many, I'm not going to go through them, but there's countless ones. Have a look later if you need to. When it comes to the actual support for the ahadith which Ibn bin Baz suggests are fabricated, the best work is that by Shaykh bin Jibril Haddad, who's a Syrian scholar, a great hadith scholar, and he has done a lot of research on this. And at the back on your way out, and for those people who take interest in hadith studies in particular, then all of the hadiths which talk about visiting the Prophet's grave, then he had mentioned about 3 pages of all of the reports and all of the takhrij, what we call the sources of those ahadiths. So if you're interested in that, there's about 20-25 copies there. Do take a copy on the way out. So from that you will understand that certainly this hadith is not fabricated. Even in the absence of that, think for yourself. Why, all those ahadiths that we talked about the fazila of Madina Sharif and the Prophet's Mosque, what's the reason behind that? It's because of our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. He's the asl reason, isn't he? So it's a bit silly to say visit the mosque, know the fazila of the mosque, but don't visit the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam and that there's no fazila related to him. What kind of logic is that? All of the fadila and all of the superiority is linked directly to our messenger. That's how the city, that's how the earth, that's how Dajjal won't enter it, and that's the reason behind it, isn't it? So it's a bit strange that you uphold the superiority of Madina Sharif, but then somehow you want to distance yourself from people visiting the grave and people talking about the fadila of this particular aspect. Note as well that Sayyidina, the term we use is ziyarah. Ziyarah means to visit someone. When we do the ziyarah, we are visiting someone, we are visiting our master, we are showing our thanks to that person who has given us Islam and Iman. The person without, we would not know the Quran. The person without, I'm sorry, we wouldn't know the difference between right and wrong. The person without, we wouldn't even know how to clean ourselves properly. To the littlest thing, every good aspect in your life is because of your master sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Every goodness that you have in your life is because of him. Go there and show your respect and show your thanks to him. Go there and humbly request du'as. Go there and seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the sin that you have committed. So Islam is a personal religion. It is a religion of spirituality. It is a religion of people. It is not a long list of do's and don'ts. Our Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was not just a person who delivered the Quran and disappeared. He brought the perfect message. He personified the message as well. He gave it that 3 dimension as well. So go to that person and go to him and show your thanks towards him as well. Bow your head in respect and in love and muhabbat and say as-salatu was-salamu alayka ya sayyidi ya Rasulullah. So to visit the grave of our Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is something which no true Muslim would turn away from. You would feel to yourself that after everything he has given to me, the least I could do is to go there with the intention of visiting his final resting place. So throughout history, what we find is that the Ulema Karam, they have always talked about the ziyarah. Look in Imam Ghazali's Ihya Ulumuddin, page after page after page, he talks about exactly how to do the ziyarah. Just the as-salatu was-salamu part, that takes up a whole page. Then he talks about the ziyarah of the rest of Madina Sharif. He says, go to every single well in Madina, drink from there, have a bath from there, perform ablution from there. He goes into so much detail about how to do the ziyarah of the city and how to do the ziyarah of the final resting place of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. To conclude, there is one famous example to prove that to go to the city of Madina Sharif with the intention of ziyarah, visiting the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, is in fact the sunnah of the companions. And that story is the story of Sayyidina Bilal radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, the muazzin of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. When the Prophet, peace be upon him, left this world, Sayyidina Bilal, he migrated to Sham. He could no longer bear the city of Medina without his Habib. So he left the city of Madina Sharif. And then one day while he was residing in Syria, in Damascus, with his wife, he saw the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in his dream, in which the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said to him, "Ma hadhihi al-jafa? Why is it that you have not come to visit me?" And then immediately Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu ta'ala anhu went to Madina Sharif to present himself in front of our Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And unfortunately it's perhaps a bit negative way to finish. The future. It seems that especially in the last few months that there have been talks, and it has been something that's becoming time and time again, that the Saudi authority have suggested that they might move the final resting place of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And if they do, unfortunately this will be something which has not been done since he was actually first put there. That no one dared actually do this. And then more importantly, it contravenes the verse from the Holy Quran, وَلَوْ أَنَّهُمْ إِذْ ظَلَمُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ جَاءُوكَ. Their idea is that they want to put this in an unknown area in Jannatul Baqi. To totally demolish the Green Dome, totally move the final resting place and bury him in Jannatul Baqi. The problem with that is that the Quranic verse says, جَاءُوكَ, they should come to you. So how are people supposed to come to the messenger when they don't know exactly where he is anymore? The second point, and this is, we've already mentioned this, is that the hadith of Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu says that every messenger is buried exactly where he passed away. So again, if you move him, you're contravening the saying of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. And finally, is that we know very well from the ahadith that Sayyidina Isa radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he will be buried next to our messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So again, if you put him in an ungrave area, just like you have done with the other companions in Jannatul Baqi, then where will you exactly bury him then? Where will the future Muslims know where to bury Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam? So may Allah protect us like He has protected the city of Madina Sharif for the last 1,400 years. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect this beautiful city until the day of judgment. Ameen wa ma alayna illa al-balahul mubin.